Wonder Egg Priority is a show based around the concept of death, and as such, this video will contain mature topics, such as suicide, death, child abuse, and self-harm. Viewer discretion is advised. For as long as I can remember, I've always been obsessed with tragedy. As a kid, I hyper-focused on the most mature stories I could find, stories that often left me so amazed that I couldn't even explain or express just what it was that made them so special to me. In elementary, it was Greek mythology and Star Wars. In middle school, it was Ocarina of Time and Night of the Living Dead. In high school, it was, weirdly enough, the Crucible for a little bit. And then Little Shop of Horrors and Heathers and Omori and the Magnus Archives and the Plague Tale Requiem and so many other things that shaped me as a person. There is no time I can think of when I didn't crave that feeling of something that felt so oddly sad and happy and a little bit of everything at the same time. Stories that often ended sadly and then provided a way to move forward. Tragedies taught me how to process and deal with my own trauma, traumas that I began to see represented in the media I consumed. To me, tragedies are stories where the entire point is that things didn't have to go that way. Stories that emphasize again and again had a character made a different choice, thought a little harder, been a little more rational. Things could have been different. And yet, they make that distinct choice to ensure things are not different. Yes, if a character stopped for a second and just thought about it and chose something else, everything could be good and everyone could be happy. But in making those bad choices that doom those who matter most, these characters reflect the most human aspects of ourselves. Tragedy relies on that possibility that things could have ended better, because what makes them work is the loss of what could have been. So when I was introduced to Wonder Egg Priority, I instantly knew I was about to see something that would change my life forever. If you haven't seen Wonder Egg Priority before, I'm about to go over some of the basic world building and plot points, but I genuinely recommend watching the series, even though it does go off the deep end with the last few episodes. Spoilers from here on out, so if you want, you can click off, watch a couple episodes, and come back later. I'll still be here. The idea that tragedy is built off the loss of what could have been is exactly what makes Wonder Egg Priority so promising. While most stories would start off in a happy or neutral state and then progressively get darker and darker, Wonder Egg Priority starts us off in this dark, sad reality. Things will, of course, get worse as they go on. But the series is built off of this core idea that the main tragedies present have already happened. And from the very first episode, we're told that it's possible to reverse them. Ai Oto is a depressed middle schooler who hasn't left her house since the suicide of her best friend, Koito. In a dream one night, she's told by a lightning bug that by becoming a magical girl and protecting other girls who have killed themselves, she can bring Koito back. And so begins Ai's journey to do just that. Ai, and the group of girls she teams up with as the show goes on, all fight to save friends they've lost. When you lose someone close to you by suicide or other matters, it's incredibly easy to blame yourself, to obsess over ways you could have saved them. In some way, each of our main protagonists has been doing just that in the time since they've lost their friends. The world of Wonder Egg Priority is one of second chances, though. One of promises to do what you could not have before. The situation surrounding Koito's suicide is incredibly mysterious, and at times left incredibly vague. What we do know is that it's a death that could have been stopped if any of the adults in her life had taken the time to notice what was happening at school and intervene. Nehru's trying to save her sister. not because of any love she has for her, but a sense of duty. Her sister stabbed her before jumping off a bridge to her death, the reasoning behind her actions unknown. In some way, bringing her back is the only closure Nehru could possibly have. Momoe was seen by everyone around her as a boy, her friend Haruka being the only person she felt really saw her. Haruka's reason for killing herself is unknown, but Momoe feels guilty for her death because she rejected sexual advances from her. Rika is perhaps the most guilty of all the main group. She was an idol, and the person she lost was a devout fan who shoplifted in order to get her gifts. Instead of asking her not to, Rika ridiculed her for her weight publicly, saying it was embarrassing for her to be seen with a fat person. She starved herself to death. Throughout the series, we're introduced to all sorts of tragedies. Girls bullied to suicide, trans people looked down upon, children violated by trusted adults. You'd think a show like Wonder Egg Priority, which can get really silly,
For real, guys. Without this, we're at risk of killing ourselves.
and even includes the word slay,
Mixing the colors like that totally slays.
would mishandle some of these themes and sensitive subject matters. And it does, especially near the end of the series. But for the most part, each of these individual stories are treated with respect and care, like reflections of real people. Each of their struggles is depicted from the angle of not shaming or judging, but explaining and trying to understand. Episode 2 tells the story of Minami Suzuhara, a gymnast pushed to her limit by her coach. Their relationship is shown to be intensely dependent and abusive, and when the Eggworld's version of her coach demands for her to punish herself even more, Minami obeys and returns to her.
Stop it! I brought this on myself! Please just leave me alone! It's because I don't have enough spirit or guts. I'm just an ugly, shy girl. That's why it's my fault. It's true. So just go. I don't buy that crap! All you want is a little attention! And somebody who will love you! I won't leave you here! I refuse!
And she isn't judged for this because this isn't her fault. Ai is upset because she knows Minami deserves better, but she doesn't judge her for it. She can't believe that Minami would keep returning, but she understands. She wants better for Minami without bashing her for it. And by the end, Ai does show Minami the truth.
You're nothing but an abusive asshole! It's just tough love! Watch out! That's BS! All you do is abuse your own power! I don't speak, bitch!
Ai and Minami fight off her coach by working together. And though Ai is the one to strike the final blow, the real resistance here is Minami. Minami is free now, but okay, I can't ignore this any longer. Because here's the thing with the Egg World. In each episode, the Eros warriors help the girls trapped in the eggs by fighting off their fears while also helping them to learn and understand themselves and those fears better. And each episode ends on this happy note that these girls have been saved, that they'll be free now. But here's the thing, they won't be. The mythos of the show demands it, insists that unless a friend of these girls decides to become a magical girl, their friend will remain trapped. So Minami may have worked through some of her trauma now, but she's not done with it. It's going to keep haunting her, potentially forever and ever. And you could say that this is a metaphor for real-life trauma, that you could work through it and it will still follow you through your life, but this goes deeper than that. This isn't just a metaphor, it's their fucking lives. They will remain here, trapped, possibly forever, unless another girl decides to potentially sacrifice her own life for them. Oh. And that's the thing. Even if you do win, death is still permanent in Wonder Egg Priority. We'll come back to that later, but the corrupt system of Wonder Egg Priority is just so fucked up and incredibly written. It's so deeply tragic and beautiful. It's a show built on the premise of trying to save someone you love from the final unknowable. Moreover, a show that promises that you can, and then snatches that promise away. I love it. But I wouldn't be making this video if that was all that Wonder Egg Priority was. Wonder Egg Priority is a show that deeply understands itself and what it wants to get across, until it doesn't. Wonder Egg Priority is an amazing, deeply tragic, wonderfully written show, until it isn't. When I was a kid, I was obsessed with sci-fi bullshit. But the fact of the matter is that sci-fi bullshit cannot and should not fit into every story. Wonder Egg Priority doesn't need any sci-fi bullshit, it doesn't need an explanation, it doesn't need an origin. All of the story is already there with this corrupt system, and if you just keep going with that, you have enough. Set up a big bad guy, maybe even make Ura and Akka the bad guys considering how the egg world is set up, and that's it. That's the story. Episode 9 is almost entirely sci-fi bullshit. Nehru gets paired with her old friend Kotobuki in the egg world, where she reveals that parallel worlds are real. This episode also has what I think is one of the funniest moments in the series, when Nehru entirely seriously implies that because she was the product of artificial insemination,
I'm a product of artificial insemination, but we're not children of God. Did you forget?
she has no soul. Sorry, just something about the thought of surrogate babies not being ensouled is so funny to me.
Viral idea!
Kotobuki asks Nehru to destroy her body, which is on life support in the real world so it isn't experimented on, which leads to a fight between the main four.
Was that a cheap shot at me? Well, was it?
Stop it, you guys! Kotobuki can hear you!
This is actually really interesting. They've butted heads a few times before, but here, it's a major philosophical debate.
So, is that a reason to kill someone? She still looks alive, like she's only sleeping.
She's already dead. It's just a container.
What do you do with an empty body on life support? Is that still a person? The episode ends on hit after hit. Nehru's company is somehow related to the egg world. There's some hidden truth about the eggs that if the girls were to know would turn them against Ura and Akka. And Ura Akka manipulated the eggs so that Nehru would get Kotobuki. And all of this is actually really well done. The meat of the episode with Kotobuki is boring and full of sci-fi bullshit, but there are good and interesting things in the episode still. It's a drop in quality, but there is still quality there. The show can still be saved. The next episode shoots straight back up. It's really well written and also includes a blatantly trans character who's treated with respect and is a foil for Momoe.
She's a girl, but she said she loves me.
Oh, a lesbian. That's not really me.
Seriously?
For real. Because inside, I'm a boy.
Kaoru's trauma is that he isn't seen as a boy, and while his storyline is really well done, there's also the question of, does the show see him as a real boy? On the one hand, the egg world is said time and time again to be uniquely a thing for girls.
The suicides of young girls. If we gave the real reason, none of them would be motivated to fight.
On the other, Kaoru is shown so much respect, and the entire plot of the episode focuses on his transness. It's asserted again and again that inside he is a boy, and the best scene in the episode comes when his Wonder Killer says that he's a girl, and nothing will ever change that, leading to the moment when Kaoru cries that he's a boy, and Momoe yells out that she's a girl, and kills the transphobe while ripping open her jacket to reveal a trans pride-colored bra. It's truly a work of art, building on Momoe's entire arc from that point.
Just so you know, I have every right to ride in this car too! What drivel are you spouting? I'm saying, I can be here because I'm a girl!
But when I showed up to the meeting place, the guy looked absolutely horrified.
Horrified? What for?
Well, it's probably because he thought I was a boy.
Her whole storyline has focused on her gender dysphoria and how no one, not even her best friend, really saw her as a girl. Here, she destroys others' opinions of her and accepts herself. Immediately after this, when Kaoru has to go, we're thrown back into another massive scene. Momoe has succeeded in bringing back her friend, and to pay the price, her wonder animal has to die while she stands defenseless. It's a moment that shows intense fear and panic from Momoe. After just showing her at her highest, she's dragged back down again. Episode 10 is one of my favorites in the entire series, and it's a shame that the episode following it is what completely ruined the show for me. The past few episodes have been building up, building to something big. All of that tension needs somewhere to go, so it goes into a backstory episode. This is where everything goes to shit. Bear with me here, because not only is this entire episode incredibly contrived sci-fi bullshit, it's also just philosophically bad. I'm gonna do my best to unpack it here, but at the end of the day, some of it's just not worth digging into. So Akka and Ura-Akka were once humans before they uploaded their consciousness into the egg world. And they were also pretty much dating, because practically every character in this show has some sort of gay tension that will never be addressed, aside from when Frill, we'll get to her in a minute, calls them husbands, and Ura-Akka gets upset at the insinuation that he's jealous of Akka's other relationship. With me so far? I know it's a little convoluted, but make no mistake, it will get much worse. Akka and Ura-Akka work for some big secret company that keeps them under surveillance 24/7, and eventually, they get really bored and decide to make an AI daughter. I shouldn't have to say this, but being bored is not a good reason to make a person and become a parent. The way Ura-Akka describes it, they started the project just to have something to do, but soon became obsessed with making it realistic. Again, a horrible reason to bring a child into the world! Ura and Akka wanted her to feel like a real person, complex and intricate, so they settled on making her 14. A time when emotions are a lot more intense. So they make Frill, and life is good for a bit. Frill feels real. She acts like a person, being intelligent, kind, even selfish at times. Ura-Akka describes them as being a normal family. Because again, Akka and Ura-Akka are literally a couple and don't realize it. One day they meet a woman, Azusa, who both of them like because they're bisexual poly kings. Ura-Akka isn't as into her though, and when Akka starts dating her, it seems like he's more jealous of her dating Akka than of Akka dating her. Eventually, Akka and Azusa get married, and Frill calls Ura-Akka out on his hidden jealousy, referring to Akka as his husband and calling him a liar. This is the one moment I cheered in this episode because I knew they were gay!
For example, do you hate your husband for cheating on you? Or the other woman who you're positive must have seduced him?
Neither. I give them my blessing.
Liar.
Azusa gets pregnant, and when Frill finds out it's going to be another girl, she gets jealous and kills her. Just fucking chucks a blow dryer in the bathtub. Okay, so now it has to be addressed. This entire time, there's been some hints that Frill feels a certain way about Akka, but considering she's his child, it can easily be glanced over as normal child liking a parent. But no. The writers had to be weird and say, whoopsie, we taught our evil android daughter too much Freud, and now she's got an Oedipus complex. The baby is just barely saved, but Azusa is dead. And in a moment of rage that made me genuinely hate him, even though his child's been written to be a little weirdo, Akka decides child abuse is the answer and just chucks her down a flight of stairs.
Please stop! Stop! I hate the dark place!
In a genuinely horrifying scene, he kicks her around as she begs and pleads before locking her in, weirdly, a box of old computers. This is going to be very convenient for the plot later, and at first, I thought there was nothing more to it. But it is actually an interesting detail if you take into account the way he talks to her in this scene.
It hurts.
Does it, though? You're just detecting predetermined inputs.
He isn't just locking her in a random box. He's throwing her away with all of his other old tech junk, because now that he's done with her, that's all she is to him.
You can't pretend not to see me. I was born from the two of you, after all.
It's genuinely really interesting, and if this plot wasn't so awful, it could have been really well done. Akka and Ura-Akka go on to raise Himari, Azusa and Akka's daughter, but as soon as she turns 14, they notice she begins to exhibit some of Frill's old quirks. like popping her lips, and trying to exploit Uraraka's jealousy over Azusa. But then, things get even weirder, because, and again, he and Akka have raised this girl as their own. She asks if he can wait for her to grow up, so they can date.
I look like my mom, right? I'll be just like her.
Maybe.
So wait, and then you and I can get married.
What? God fucking damn it, they made another Freud daughter! Throw this one in the basement, let's try again, lads. Uraraka's reaction is the appropriate one to your daughter or any child coming on to you. You reject them and try to change the conversation. But when Himari pops her lips the way Frill used to, there's a moment of genuine horror from Uraraka. As Uraraka tells us, that night, Himari kills herself. And this is the part where this entire episode goes from something that's kind of bad but could be really good with a few changes, to the episode that fully tainted the series to me. This part is more than just narratively bad. It is ideologically indefensible. Uraraka goes to the basement and he finds Frill hooked up to all those totally inconspicuous computers from earlier. Throughout the show, the writers have continued to make a point that in this world, there's something special about the suicides of teenage girls. Something that sets them apart from other suicides and deaths and allows them to be saved. This is the concept the rest of the story is built off of. This is the reason given for the egg world. And it's the worst thing in the entire series. In real life, suicide happens for a myriad of reasons, mostly stemming from systemic issues. Suicide is complicated and intricate. There are any number of different reasons someone might decide to kill themselves. And when it happens, all we can do is examine those reasons and try to change the conditions that led them to believe their best option was to take their own life. I myself have struggled with suicidal ideation attempts and self-harm since I was in elementary school and all through middle school and high school. I know that feeling, that chasm, that void. I know what it feels like to have no other option. I've watched my friends struggle too, and I know more than anything that it can't be pinned to one specific cause. Suicide is, again, deeply complex, and it needs to be treated with care. Up to this point, Wonder Egg Priority had done a good job of that, but this episode changes everything, even its past representation retroactively. The big reason there are so many suicides by 14-year-old girls in the world of Wonder Egg Priority is that somehow, someway, the evil Freudian AI daughter is inside the minds of every 14-year-old girl, convincing them to kill themselves. Not only is this irresponsible, it's morally reprehensible, disgusting even. The idea that people commit suicide because of some sneaky demon somewhere is not a new one, and it's one that has led to so much mistreatment of people affected by suicidal thoughts. There is no big spooky monster forcing children to kill themselves, and this rhetoric only perpetuates the myth that there's nothing we can do about suicide. It shrugs it off as something that can't be changed, when there are things in our society we can change that statistically have been shown to lower suicide rates. When I was struggling with depression, being told that it was just the devil after me didn't help at all. If anything, it made things worse. Ideas like that are at best misguided and at worst, actively increase the feelings that lead to depression and suicide. When people said things like that to me, I just got more and more depressed, and I blamed myself for not being able to stop it. Despite the garbage philosophy found towards the end of Wonder Egg Priority, the episode itself is still wonderfully made. The animation here is still beautiful, and the voice acting is incredible. I'm genuinely shocked every time I remember that Akka is JelloApocalypse.
It's a Kingdom Hearts cutscene. You can say any words in any order. Darkness, darkness, light, dark, heart, dark memories, light, dark, friendship, darkness.
But here's the thing. Wonder Egg Priority still isn't over. There are 2 more episodes left in the season, and the episode directly after this one is probably my favorite of the entire series. In episode 12 of Wonder Egg Priority, Ai is paired with an egg girl unlike any of the others we've seen, because the girl Ai is tasked with protecting is herself. Quito's death leaves her depressed and shut in her house, But becoming friends with the other Eros fighters pulls Ai even more out of it, and brings her a new sense of confidence. The Ai we end the series is drastically different than the one we start with, and this Ai is from even before that. The Ai she's tasked with protecting is herself from another universe. A universe where she never met Koito, and was bullied so severely she did kill herself. It's incredibly interesting. Not only do we get an entire episode about how much Ai has changed and grown, but we also see another possible path her life could have gone down. We see an Ai completely defeated, and then we see her realize through our Ai what she has to live for. But here's the thing, immediately after this episode, the show returns with a special, and it's bad again. It's not nearly as demonstrable as episode 11, but it's an hour-long recap episode. In one 13-episode season, we've already had a recap episode. Not only is this the second recap and the final episode of the show, but this is only 2 episodes after the Frill episode, which is also entirely recapped here. It's more than just pointless, it's an annoying waste of time and talent. Compound that with the fact that the special aired 2 months after the rest of the season, seemingly to lead into a second season that is never coming. One other major thing happens at the end of episode 12, which plays out in the latter half of the special episode. After successfully saving the other Ai, our Ai succeeds in her mission and brings Koito back. But bringing Koito back changes nothing. In fact, it makes things worse. Akka and Ura-Akka have pulled another cruel trick. The friends all of these girls have been fighting to save aren't the ones they knew, but versions of them from alternate universes. Not only does the Koito Ai brings back not know her at all, but she looks down on her.
Your name is Oto, right? What's with the first name? It's not like we're friends, huh? Come on, Koito. Okay.
Ai's fight was in vain. The only thing she brought back is a hollow shell of her friend, a reminder of everything she's permanently lost. After everything that's been ruined, there's still so much good in this show. Even with all its flaws, it's hard not to see the potential still there. I haven't unpacked everything there is to unpack with One Direct Priority. I've barely even scratched the surface. There are a lot of strange writing choices and icky dynamics, and the reason for the show's incredible variable quality is that no one knew what the fuck they were doing. None of the show was planned out in advance, to the point that an episode would be completed and the crew would have no idea what would happen in the next one. The project was extremely mismanaged, to the point that any messages got muddled and drowned out by all the competing ideas in the show. It's been nearly 5 years since the end of season 1 now. There's still been no news of a season 2 or any continuation, and most, if not all, of the hype has died. This is what I think the saddest thing with One Direct Priority is. It's not that the show fell into ruin or missed the mark. Plenty of shows do that. Even after all its failures, it's not too late to save One Direct Priority. There are things that can be changed, retcons that can be made. And even without those, the special had me genuinely excited for a return where the girls fight against the Akkas and the Egg System. But none of that will ever come. One Direct Priority's renewal, for some reason, hinged on DVD sales, a sadly dying medium. Despite the show being extremely popular online and having good Blu-ray sales, it didn't meet the incredibly specific criteria the studio was looking for, so it's been stuck in the hell of limbo ever since. The real tragedy of One Direct Priority is not any of the ones we're shown throughout its story, nor is it the show's decline. The real tragedy of One Direct Priority is that it can never be any better. This is all it will ever be. A muddled mess of missed opportunities. Maybe one day it will get a continuation or reboot or the weird kind of both in between thing that anime movies like to do. When it first aired, it was incredibly popular, and I'm sure it could be again one day. But more likely, I think it'll stay like this. 12 episodes, varying in quality. Some incredible, some not. It is cursed to simply be the thing it already is, forever. Wonder Egg Priority will never get a second chance or revival or the chance to pick itself up and be any better, but I hope people remember it anyway.